Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club Podcast, where every week we pick a movie to talk about and try our best to stay on topic. And this week...
Oh boy, did you pick a movie this week.
I did. We are continuing on with our franchise month. We're talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and today we're talking about its illustrious sequel.
It's like, 10 years later? Or
13 years later? 14 years later? We're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Oh boy.
Yeah, this movie is released in 1986. It's described as a black comedy slasher film. It's directed by the original director, Tobe Hooper, but it's not written by him. It's written by L.M. Kit Carson. And yeah, this movie's considered a critical and audience bomb. Like, not many people like this movie. It kind of became a cult classic a decade later.
Yeah.
But...
as they do.
You know, your thoughts. Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out my thoughts after watching this last night, because, yeah, I mean, I've never seen it before. I knew of it because of the poster where they're memeing on The Breakfast Club.
Yeah, it is literally a parody of the Breakfast Club opening with Leatherface doing the whole, fist bump and everything.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure what to expect, and then the movie just kept going, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
You don't know.
I don't. We've got, Leatherface falling in love.
We have
Dennis Hopper.
We have Drayton Sawyer, the cook, making chili out of people and winning the Chili Con Carnival. We have Chop Top.
Who's creepy, yeah.
Yeah. And, this is a weird movie.
Very weird movie.
Yeah, because not only is it just, weird on premise, it's weird on the fact it's even made, right?
Yeah.
Because it's made a decade plus from the original film, and usually, at least, memory serves, for most of these slasher franchises, if there's a sequel to them, there's usually a lot in quick succession.
Yeah, it's not a decade plus later.
Yeah.
And then it's very different from the first movie.
Oh, this is so much different. With Friday the 13th, they're kind of the same film for a lot of them.
Yeah. And
they were made within, a year or two from each other for, a decade.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street's kind of the same way, and they kind of devolved into comedy, gradually as they went on. Friday the 13th did it, too.
Yeah. And
with this, whatever the fuck it is, it just goes straight into slapstick, with this sequel.
Made me question chili, and I love chili.
Okay.
As soon as I saw him at the contest, I was like, no, don't ruin chili for me, please.
Boo, it's all in the meat. They don't skimp on the meat. It's always prime meats. But yeah, so I guess to give everybody the lowdown as to what this movie is about, it's gonna be something.
Yeah, that'd be.
So, the movie is following Stretch, the DJ broadcaster for shock jock for this podunk little radio station in northern Texas. Yep. And through happenstance, she overhears the grisly murder of two raging jackasses as they're killed by Leatherface and his evil family. And this brings in the investigative powers of Dennis Hopper, Lefty, who is a Texas marshal or Texas sheriff?
Investigator, somebody.
He's Dennis Hopper with a cowboy hat, so he must be important.
Yeah.
And he is investigating this as he is related to Sally and Franklin from the first film, and he assumes the same people who killed them killed these two jackasses. And Stretch, in an attempt to draw out the killers, I think is the purpose, plays the recording of their death live on air.
Because the jackasses that are killed in the beginning of the movie have been calling Stretch over and over at a radio station, and because it's a radio station, all calls get recorded, and they just so happen to record their own murder.
Yes. And that does attract the illustrious Sawyer family. That's the cook, Chop Top and Leatherface
and the hitchhiker.
And the hitchhiker as a little puppet. And they kidnap Stretch, and Lefty comes in to save the day, and it culminates in the third greatest chainsaw battle in cinema history, and ends on the Matterhorn.
Yeah, I was kind of confused.
Yes. And you might be thinking, Dean, you're leaving something out. I'm not.
No, that's pretty much the movie.
Yeah. This movie was written by a third grader, right?
It feels like it. I'm sorry.
I don't want to be mean, but breaking it down from top to bottom, because it opens with these assholes, Buzz and Rick, as they're racing towards the Texas-Oklahoma football game, and one of them is shooting his gun out the window. They're both drinking and raising hell, and they keep calling into this radio station, and I don't understand why Stretch can't hang up, because she wants to hang up on them, but they can't.
I guess it makes for good radio, but at the same time, they're like, show us your boobs, and it's like, dude, you're calling a radio station. How are you going to see boobs? This is the 80s. There's no, FaceTime.
Oh, hey, in the 80s, they wanted to see boobs over the phone, and we figured that technology out. The human mind can achieve great things when boobs are involved.
I know, the calculator trick, I know.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, and then you have, Dennis Hopper showing up, and I have no idea Dennis Hopper's role in this. I understand his role, but, he's supposed to, oh, it's Dennis Hopper, the marquee name above the title. So he's supposed to, give some gravitas to the movie, right? Give it a little bit of pizzazz or name brand.
But I mean, it's hard to give it gravitas when he's running around through their lair and just, cutting down supports, and he's quoting the Bible and calling everyone brother and sister.
And that's contrasted to the first half of the movie, because the first half of the movie, he doesn't want to be there.
No.
He is actively, you can tell he's either reading cue cards or he is just so not interested with the movie that's going on around him. And then the last half, he is on his best coke binge. He's
got, 2 chainsaws in each hand. He's jumping around. He's being an action hero. It's just what is happening?
Also, when he buys the chainsaws.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's a homage to Good and the Bad and the Ugly. That's what that sequence is. But, in the Good and the Bad and the Ugly, have you seen it?
I haven't.
I loaned you that movie a month ago. Oh, man.
It's been longer than a month, and I know. I'll get to it eventually.
I just gotta stop loaning you things in quick succession. That's what I gotta stop doing.
It'd be like that.
So, in Good and the Bad and the Ugly, Tuco comes in from this, long stay in the desert, and he needs to go catch Blondie. That's Clint Eastwood's character. Mm-hmm. Goes into the gun shop, and he's looking at all the guns. He builds his own weapon. He's getting the arsenal ready, and he goes and does the shooting practice, right? And that's exactly what Dennis Hopper's doing here, except with chainsaws.
That kind of sounds like, what you do at Disneyland when you go to Galaxy's Edge and you build your own lightsaber. Was that what he was doing in The Good and the Bad, the Ugly?
Yes, actually.
He built his own lightsaber. That's awesome.
Yeah, also, he had a little Yoda there, and that little Yoda was, walking him through it.
I love Yoda and Baby Yoda. He christened him a
Jedi Knight after. You need to watch Good and the Bad and the Ugly.
I think I have to now.
It is the precursor to Star Wars. Wow. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay, I might have to give it a watch.
It's fantastic. Masterpiece, even.
Okay. But yeah, we see him getting 2 chainsaws, just walking out of the shop, these only weigh 5 pounds each. I can do this, and I'm just that's a chainsaw.
Chainsaws aren't actually that heavy. Okay, at least the chainsaws I've had to use at work, which are, I guess, electric ones, so I don't know about the gas-powered ones that these are supposed to be.
But didn't you say that the actor that plays Leatherface in this movie couldn't lift the chainsaw over his head?
Oh, yes. So everyone out there, just to ruin everybody's fantasy, so Bill Johnson, he played Leatherface. He's the actor who was credited with the role and all that. He only has about 2 minutes of actual screen time used in the final film. Because, for some reason, I don't know if he, had an injury, or if it was an Arnold in Conan situation where he just legitimately couldn't lift the chainsaw over his head. Because the stunt double, or the stunt coordinator, was Leatherface every time he had to lift the chainsaw over his head, which is like every time he's on screen,
pretty much,
as opposed to like maybe 2 close-ups, I think.
Perhaps. I mean, there's a lot of Leatherface in this movie.
Way more than the first one.
Way more than the first. It took us a while to actually get to them. Because we briefly see them during the first murder on the bridge with the 2 jackasses.
Yes.
And then they're gone again.
Yeah, which... Okay. I think this is going to just have to do... We have to draw comparisons to the first one.
Yeah.
Because it's the same director, it's a different writer, but, you know, Tobe Hooper, he had already done, like, Poltergeist at this point, I believe.
It's not the same Leatherface.
It's not the same Leatherface. They tried to get Gunnar Hansen, but he didn't want to do it, or they wouldn't pay him enough. The story changes depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
But this movie, it feels so much like a generic slasher that Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one, influenced. And it doesn't feel like an original product at all.
No. It's night and day how different these 2 films are. And let alone how the character of Leatherface is, because that's who we get basically as our star of the movie, because we have him in the first film, we have him in this one, we have Cook too, but Cook, we don't get too much of Cook in the first film.
Yeah.
The hitchhiker, he's dead, so we,
yeah, he's just like a puppet. Yeah.
The Chop Top's new.
Chop Top, okay. Chop Top has gained this, like love in the fandom. Because I guess he is, like, the defining characteristic or character of Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yeah.
Do you like Chop Top?
I think he's creepy. And I would give that as a compliment to the actor that plays him, because that's who he's supposed to be. Especially when, Stretch?
Yeah.
When she comes out of her booth at the radio station and she comes down and he's just sitting there on the couch, and it's like, yeah, I'd be terrified to come, encounter a stranger at work like that. But then to see him act out like this, I'm like, this is like every horror movie that you've seen where, it's just the crazy guy that's probably going to kidnap me and kill me.
Well, and that's the thing, because that happens pretty early in the movie.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even know if it's early. It might be the midway point, actually.
Like maybe the 30-minute mark?
Maybe.
It's not a long movie.
No. I think the movie's 101 minutes, but that seems bloated, really. I'll say this, the movie's pretty fast. It feels like a really tight 90.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. But that happens pretty early on, where Stretch comes out and she sees Chop Top, and it's the hitchhiker scene.
Yeah.
Except they're in this radio station, and it's a 1-on-1, it's not 1-on-5.
Yeah.
And Chop Top seems so out there. And Stretch, does Stretch assume he's just a weird fan? Or does she think he's like...
She knows she's in danger. You could see it on her face where it's like, oh, you want a tour? Like, okay, here's the lamp. Here's the cue cards. Here's this. Here's that. There's the exit. Go. So it's like, it's not even she's trying to entertain this. It's just like, okay, I'm going to show you a couple of things, and I'm going to remind you the exit's right there. I'm going to lock you out as soon as... You
clear that threshold.
Which she doesn't.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, he's also picking at this thing in his wig, right? And it's so off-putting.
Well, it's not even picking. It's, he keeps lighting the end of a wire hanger and keeps scratching his scalp, and it's just like, oh God, what is that? Until we finally see what it is.
Exposed metal plate in his skull.
And it's his scalp that's itching from, being exposed because it's an open wound, basically. Just on metal. Also,
this has one of the few good, solid jump scares in the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you jump?
I jumped a little bit, yeah. But I thought...
You were like... You tell me all the time you're immune to jump scares. Nothing gets you to jump. No,
they have to be really good and, unpredictable. And I knew. I'm like, okay, you have this big, it's not an empty room, because it's, what was it there? Like,
It's like the front room of their, radio station.
Well, no, the room that was completely pitch black. It was like their storage room or their record room.
Yeah, it was the record room. That's what it was.
So she keeps standing in this doorway, and I'm like, I know Leatherface is gonna pop out of this door. I'm like, I know it's gonna happen. And I'm like, I think after a while my brain was kind of like, okay, I'm tired of waiting. Let me just focus on the dialogue between these two characters.
Because Bill Moseley's fucking going for it.
Oh yeah, he's going. But then it finally happens, and I'm like, that's so good. That's like, that's Horror Nights, Scary Farm, when someone just pops out of nowhere. It's like, you know it's gonna happen. But and then it finally hits, so and it's just like, shit. Like, he's got the chainsaw. I'm like, that's a great jump scare.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about the movie, is there's parts in it that are legitimately good. Yeah. Like, that, I think, is a legitimately good sequence. Mm-hmm. The introduction of Chop Top, his monologue, their dialogue, and then the jump scare with Leatherface. Yeah. I'm like, oh,
that's horror.
That was good. That was scary. Mm-hmm. Like, this guy is so unhinged, and it feels like the Hitchhiker sequence, but it's got a little bit of a new twist to it. And then it's wasted because
then we get this.
Is Leatherface jerking it in this movie?
Yeah, this, like, tantric rhythmic dance that he does with the chainsaw.
And because, you know, Leatherface jumps out, he whacks Chop Top in his metal plate. And
ruins his wig.
Ruins his Sonny Bono wig, and he's like, non-flashback, as Leatherface chases Stretch into like the storage room? The kitchen?
It must have been a storage room, even though there's a big vat of ice with big reds cooling on it, and I was like, you just ruined all those big red colas. Why, God, why?
You love soda, it happens.
I do, you know, that's, what is it, that's Texas's #2 selling cola, right behind Dr. Pepper.
Fans? How do you know this? Why do you know this?
Because I got Texas in my blood, and I love me some Dr. Pepper. And Big Red is good, too.
Weirdos.
But yeah, he goes about, you know, destroying the storage room. She's, you know, actually talking to him, where she's telling him, you know, no good, and he's, like, understanding her.
Which, it kind of is weird, because this Leatherface, because it is not the Gunnar Hansen Leatherface. The Gunnar Hansen Leatherface was very scared. Yeah. He was very unnerved by people he didn't know that was his family. Mm-hmm. You get a sense that in the first film, he doesn't really understand what he's doing.
He just reacts.
Yeah, he's just reacting. He's just scared, and he's, you know, killing people because he's scared.
They're in his home.
But in this one, it's way more slasher because he's really aggressive, and then he's, you know, attacking things, and also he's got kind of a thing for Stretch in this scene.
And that's when we get, you know, the air thrusting with the chainsaw.
The thing he's doing with his hand is questionable.
It's questionable, and then, you know, he really gets that chainsaw very, very close to an area that you would not want that chainsaw to be.
Right, somewhere between some legs, and, you know, in them shorts, it's not leaving much to the imagination.
I mean, my hands were balled up, because I was just like, oh, God.
Were you thinking, is this the moment? Is the movie going this far? Is he going to turn the chainsaw on?
I'm like, this is 80s horror, so they might go there. Luckily, they don't. I was just like, oh, thank God. I'm like...
That, again, another thing about the movie where it is so ungodly goofy because, you know, Leatherface is there and he is obviously, you know, trying to get his rocks off, right? Yeah. And you're like, this is so fucking weird.
I'm like, this is not Leatherface from the original film.
This is not even close.
This is Looney Tunes.
Yes, exactly. But like that chainsaw right where it is, and yeah. you know, you as a woman, I assume
do not want that there. No.
Yeah, and you know, it's still like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I feel it's a different kind of uncomfortable than the first movie.
Yeah.
And so Leatherface is like, I like you, girl. And then leaves her?
Well, first he destroys the booth. Because he goes about destroying the storage area that they're in first, and then the booth. And you could hear Chop Top, you know, did you kill her good? You got her? And he's just like, you know, yeah, you know, I got her. This way, you know, he spares her, which is like, that's not Leatherface. He's gonna spare somebody?
It's so weird. It feels like a totally different franchise in a way, or different character.
I feel like at the end of Texas Chainsaw, you know, once Sally makes her escape and that trucker, he's still running. I feel like Leatherface could have kept going after the trucker, and we just didn't see that kill happen off screen.
See, that's another thing, because, I mean, we kind of skipped over it, but this movie also has that opening narration by, I think it is by John Larroquette again.
It sounded like it.
Yeah, but they're doing the whole, reading and all that stuff, and it's been 14 years since the supposed Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No bodies were found, disappeared in the annals of American history. Some say it never happened at all. And it's obviously trying to just wash away why these people aren't in prison.
Yeah, and it adds in there but there have been attacks with a chainsaw over these past 14 years, but the police and different counties, they don't want to disclose that this is happening because everyone's going to panic in the state of Texas. So it's like, yeah, we'll just keep it under wraps, but meanwhile, they've still been continuing every day for the past 14 years.
Yeah, and it's weird because with that opening, it's been 14 years. So we can imply a few things, because it says Sally's in a mental institution, right?
Yeah, it says that she told the story once she was, taken to police or whatever, and then she went catatonic. So I'm like, so she's still in a catatonic state? Has she come out of it? We don't know. Yeah,
but we can tell that there's at least... Okay, so there's 4 missing persons on the books, and this trucker died, I'm assuming, and... the Sawyer family just kind of like up and moved.
Yeah, because they said that they went and there was nobody at the house, so they've just been on the road and we see them in their RV.
But I'm like, so did Leatherface just become a whole different person in the intervening times? Because he also doesn't really... He doesn't even look like the same as the first film.
No, he looks a lot shorter.
Yeah.
He's not this big, in stature guy. Even with Stretch, he looks like...
about her height.
Yeah, they're very even compared to the first movie where he was just like towering over people.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to sound, mean to the actor, Bill Johnson, because I'm assuming he's a good actor. This is probably his first big break or whatnot. But it's really weird going from Gunnar Hansen to Bill Johnson, and you see that they're both just vastly different in appearance. Yeah. Well, I guess it's probably the stunt coordinator who we see most of the movie except for close-ups.
So it's like, did they not have to be in the 3-inch heels like Gunnar Hansen did?
Did they not pack on like a bodysuit to make like them just bigger?
More bulkier.
Yeah, and it comes up a lot in this scene when he's talking to Bill Moseley, who plays Chop Top. It looks like Chop Top's taller than him.
Yeah, he looks a lot smaller than him.
Yeah, which is weird.
I know, I kept picking up on those kind of odd little details of the movie, and it was just like, well, that doesn't look right. But I mean, we've seen a lot of movies where we see the sequel and it's just like, did they forget everything that happened in the first movie? And
you mean the Halloween franchise?
Yeah.
What is that like? There's technically 4 reboots in the series?
Pretty much. Every other film has a different mask. I mean, let alone the second film has a different mask.
Yeah. Also, there's like H2O doesn't acknowledge 2 through 7, and then like 4 doesn't acknowledge like 2, but then there's also like Resurrection that doesn't acknowledge like half of them, and then like 4, 5, and 6 are a whole different thing.
And then we have the new franchise where they completely cut out 2 through whatever to get to the 2018 movie.
But they only cut out, but they do count like the first 15 minutes of 2, but they don't include any of the rest of it.
Yeah.
Which is weird. The Halloween franchise actually is like some dog shit continuity. Like, that is like a weird way to keep track of a film. Like, Friday the 13th is a pretty straight line. Yeah. It just gets weird when it goes into space, but it's a straight line in terms of continuity. Yeah, Halloween jump starts a bunch of times.
The only franchise I could think that more or less is the same character look-wise is Scream, because the costume looks the same in each film.
Yeah.
It's not like in Halloween it changes, Jason it changes. Obviously Jason changes because something different happens to him. He's hit by lightning, he's drowned, sorts of different things affect the mask, his costuming. This film, he just looks a lot shorter. The mask is a lot different. The costume looks like
a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
It doesn't look, which is weird because this is a Tom Savini effects film.
And it, you could see the Tom Savini effects, like when...
once they get into the lair?
once they get into the lair, but even at the beginning of the film, when the guy gets the chainsaw to the head, the driver, jackass number 1.
Yes.
He loses part of his head, and I mean, it's good acting on his part because he's just like reaching his head and he looks like he's got like a migraine, and you just see the blood spurting. I'm like, oh, that's Tom Savini written all over it.
Oh yeah, and also I don't want to sound mean to the actors who are playing, the 2 teenage assholes, because they're playing a good role. Like, they're acting the part of being obnoxious.
It's just, I don't know their names. I didn't even know their names until you said, oh, that's Rick, and that's, I'm like, really?
Joke's on you. I cheated. I used Wikipedia for this. But it's just weird because in this sequence, it becomes so obvious that this is a completely different Leatherface. This is a completely different character. And it's a completely different, tone and feel than the first movie. And with other franchises, it doesn't feel that apparent. I mean, granted, I think all these slasher franchises, usually each movie, or each subsequent movie gets a little goofier. They just turn the dial up as they go along.
Absolutely. It's like, you gotta add a little bit of comedic relief versus the original films where it's just like, oh man, I'm so uncomfortable, or I'm afraid, or, what's going to happen next? And in the next ones, it's like, okay, we might get some good jump scares, some good kills, but it's going to be more on the funny side.
I got a question for you. Do you think that's the fate of all slasher franchises?
I think so, because, I mean, look at Freddy. Freddy's terrifying in the first Nightmare on Elm Street film, and then the rest, he's a comedian.
Yeah, by the third movie, he is cracking a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
I think the third movie is probably the tipping point of the series, where it still has a good balance of funny and scary, but then it's 4 and 5 are leaning a lot more in Freddy as a pop culture figure, and then he's goofy.
We get Freddy versus Jason later on, where it's just okay, this isn't scary at all. This is just, how can these 2 slasher icons beat the crap out of each other for 2 hours?
Yeah, and I mean, it Scream's a whole different beast.
Because it has a lot of, even the original film has comedy written into it.
You can even say, the Scream films are way more satire comedies and parody than actually horror movies.
Yeah. It's got, horrific elements to it. It does have, some
legitimate scares.
Legitimate scares, yeah, but from, movie 1, there's a lot of, comedy written into it. Live her alone. And it's just but yeah, I feel like this movie is kind of going with that trope of the franchise where, okay, now we're going to do a lot of more slapstick comedy and some kills as we go.
Which, judging by the first film, since we watched it just last week, did you feel that? Did you feel that, oh, this is a natural progression of it'll just now be this funny?
No, it was just oh, I thought it was going to be scary like the first film, and I was just this is not scary at all. Apart from the chainsaw to the lower region.
That, unnerving.
That was pretty much it. And when he comes out of that room.
Oh, yeah, but when he comes out of the music vault.
Yeah, I'm okay, there we go. But the rest of it's just okay.
That's a real cool effect, bro.
We're just gonna roll with it for the next hour and a half.
Yeah. And it's just the thing that this sequence, because it's when they're in the radio station, it's oh, great performance by Bill Moseley. Chop Top, instant horror icon.
Yep.
Leatherface, great jump scare. Oh, okay, we got it. We got Tobe Hooper with a bigger budget, working with his calling card. Okay, we're in. And then it leads into the really weird stuff.
Yeah.
Which is that doesn't work, and then it goes, right? Because after this, they kill LG, which is the disc Stretch's engineer.
I mean, it takes LG to die long after he's been killed originally.
Yes.
They kill him in the radio station, and then they take him to the lair.
By beating him over the head with a ball-peen hammer for 10 minutes.
And then, Stretch is in there because she's, following up. She doesn't want to be a shock jock forever. She's got to do something, She was the Gale Weathers of the 80s, so she's out there. She
wanted to get this done.
She had to get the story, so she goes and she ends up in the lair. And LG, even after being killed and having his face being cut off of his own face.
We gotta talk about the lair.
Like, we will. He still manages to get up. He's missing pieces of his shin, his rib. And he's just like, oh, come here, girl. Let me, cut those ropes off of you. I always loved you. Oh, shit, I'm dying. Okay, well, goodbye. And it's just like, how did you manage them cutting the meat off your bones? They cut your face off.
This was written by a third grader.
I was like, my God. And then him, that realization
screams.
when he's dying, he's like, it's like he's looking off and he's like, oh, shit. And then he goes. So it's just like, bruh, come on.
It feels like that was written because I wrote myself in a corner. I can't get out of this. Okay, LG comes back to life. But, okay, because they kill LG, they think they kill LG, and they take him to their lair. And Stretch is like, well, I gotta follow them. They'll disappear into the night if I don't know where they're going. And right when she leaves, that's when Lefty finally arrives to the radio station, because he was supposed to be there
earlier,
like right when she played the tape that drew in the killers, and he was going to be there to catch them. But obviously he spent too much time jerking off or training with his chainsaws. No one really knows. And he follows her. It was
probably chainsaw training.
Yeah, and he follows her. And they get to the Matterhorn. The fucking Matterhorn. In like the middle of bumfuck Texas. It's this giant amusement park.
For like American heroes, because they have like a sailor and a soldier, these big, kind of like displays as you're going into a theme park.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what the hell is this? But it's an abandoned theme park that's underground.
Yeah. Because they get in and they like roll in their truck into the cave, or like the
tunnels.
The tunnel, the ride, right? Yeah. And Stretch is trying to follow him, but she falls through one of the trap doors, I guess, like a service trap door, and it throws her into the catacombs, right? And the inside of the Leatherface lair is super cool. Like, the production design here is really good.
Yeah.
Everything looks so creepy. All the like, you can tell it's like, oh, where does the ride begin and where does the bones start? And it's all... And it's weird kind of and goofy and crazy.
And it kind of looks like a carnival because they have the strung up lights everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it kind of gave me like It vibes.
I was getting Rob Zombie vibes.
That too. Yeah.
But I see where you're coming from. Like, are you talking about the new ones, or are you talking about the old?
90s, the miniseries?
Really?
Yeah, I was getting like the tunnel with like the lights. When he's like, okay. the death lights are moving through the tunnels, I was kind of getting that vibe.
I get you. The caverns for this do look like the caverns from It. I ain't gonna lie, they might have used the same set.
Could have.
But it's so fucking weird.
And creepy. It's like, I wouldn't want to be down there. You've got body parts hanging, you've just got random bodies laying everywhere.
And the cook is all like so excited, and he is now the court jester. If he was like the reluctant serial killer in the first film who, we're doing this because we gots to, I don't like killing people, but we gotta make a living somehow. Now he's so gleeful. He's like, well, I can turn a profit selling human meat on the open market. Ooh, buddy.
And he's very pressed for time because they gotta get the meat ready for the big football game.
Yes, which is another thing, like... Because the first one, it's obvious the family's eating it for themselves, and they're selling it at like the gas station, right? For one reason or the other. But this one, I'm like, okay, this isn't like he's trying to lay low and sell it at the gas station. This is like, I'll be the Gordon Ramsay of Texas. Ooh, shit. The real Hell's Kitchen. The real Hell's Kitchen, exactly. He looks at Sally, and she's fucking raw. Mm-hmm. It's what
great. Are you? An idiot sandwich.
Is that your favorite line?
That's gonna be one of my favorite lines, yeah.
I loved watching Hell's Kitchen. My favorite was Hotel Hell, though.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone wants to just watch Gordon Ramsay just lose his shit, like, Hotel Hell is the best way to do it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, any show with Gordon Ramsay is amazing. I love him, but, yeah, Hotel Hell, Hell's Kitchen...
what's the one where he goes and he, like, fixes... Kitchen Nightmares.
Kitchen Nightmares, yeah. I mean, you get some real drama on Kitchen Nightmares because he's fighting with families that are having an issue already. Mm-hmm. And then they get mad at him, and it's like, well, bro, you caused this problem. And he's here trying to help you, so why are you getting pissed off at him?
There are so many of those places from Kitchen Nightmares that are within 10 minutes of where we record right now.
Oh, yeah.
There's the Italian place that's by, like, Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah.
That one I've actually been to that before. Like, before it was the show.
Really?
Yes. That I did years and years and years ago.
But now, we don't want none of this, cooks, barbecue, football game, chili, whatever he's going to be bringing to the game.
Yeah, because...
I mean, let alone, we get to see him in the chili contest earlier in the movie. Mm-hmm. And that woman bites down on, like, what is it, human bone? Or
She's like, what's this? He's like, oh, that's an uncracked peppercorn, darling. Obviously a human tooth.
Yeah.
Which... process your meats better? I don't know.
I don't know, but from that one scene, because I'm like... It's already gross that he's, giving it to other people to try, and they're eating, human meat. I was more impressed with LG's French fry house that he built.
Yeah, that's like at the beginning of the movie, when we're still doing, like, setup for everybody.
We're still trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, and because that's, like, within the first 10 minutes of the movie. Yeah. And he has this giant, like, French fry cabin built on the table, and he has like a tower of like what even is it? It looks like fried pickles that he's putting a capstone of honey mustard on the top of.
I don't remember that, but I was paying attention to the structure of the cabin. He even built a fireplace.
The man was talented.
He was. I mean, he managed to die and still, come back to life to help out Stretch and then die again.
Yeah. It makes sense. Also, LG, he was in the first one.
Who was he in the first one?
Crew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I found that out when I was doing research. He was part of the crew, and I wonder if that's why Toby Hooper's like, he gets one more go, because he survived the first one. If you can survive the first Texas Chainsaw, you can survive anything.
I mean, let alone, dying and coming back to life and then dying again in this movie, but surviving the making of the first film, yeah, I would give you an acting credit on the next one.
True star. So we have Stretch, and she's down in the bowels, in the cave. Whatever. Leatherface discovers her, and he's like trying to hide her or help her by putting LG's face on her and then dancing with her. And
then puts LG's hat on her, and then they dance, under the lights in the cave. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
Leatherface is in love.
He's in love, but I'm just like, this is so not Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm like, what is this?
It's a love story. And then 80s. And then he has to leave, so he ties her up, and that this is one of the most like disturbing parts of the movie, because she's just there and she is like so just distraught. She is like slow sobbing, like full chest sobbing, and she has the face of her like best friend on.
Yeah.
And this hat, and she can't like reach her hands up to take it off, and it is so uncomfortable.
It's so gross.
It's so gross. But then LG comes back to life, because Deus Ex Machina, and he frees her. And
I like that she knows that it's LG because he spits.
The character traits.
I was just like, she sees him spit, and she's like, LG, it's you! Couldn't be anything like, hey, Stretch, it's me, LG. She's like, oh.
That's LG. The only man I know who will chew even in death.
Yep.
And while this is going on, Dennis Hopper shows up, and he's got his chainsaw going. He's like, I'll get you, you son bitches, and starts chainsawing down the amusement, but like the mountain thing they're in.
It's the supports. He's going after every support, so it eventually collapses on them. But I'm like, bruh, she's in there. You gotta save the girl. And he's like, nope, we're just gonna go run around, chainsaw everything down.
It's almost like he has that, like, Captain Ahab mentality.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't matter, the people around me as long as I achieve my goal. But it's out of left field, because he is not like this for the first half of the movie.
No, it's then we have two different characters.
Yeah, and he gets the chain, and yeah, we have the chainsaw scene where it's supposed to be like, oh, he's getting ready to fight them on their terms. But, bro, you're a you're a Texas lawman. I guarantee you got like 4 guns strapped on just your ankles.
You would think, but I mean, I think maybe he finally loses it once he finds Franklin in the lair.
Which, cool cameo, but weird. Why did they take Why is Franklin there?
Why is that flashlight still working 14 years later? Like, was that
Duracell, that's why.
I guess. I mean, was that supposed to be like Franklin's spirit? Like, yep, this is me. Okay, kill the light on the flashlight.
Oh,
like, was that a sign?
It's so weird.
And the fact that they still have him sitting in the wheelchair. They
didn't be like, oh, that's a fat boy. Let's get him off the wheelchair and cook him up right good.
You know, you use the wheelchair for something else or ditch it because, you know, that's
evidence?
One more thing. Well, no, not even evidence. You know, use it for Grandpa because they wheel Grandpa back and forth, give him something modern.
Which, by the way, Grandpa still alive and well in this. At what did they say? 137 years old?
Did they?
Yes. So,
I was just like, how old is this guy? And now you could tell it's like a rubber mask.
Again, this is weird because it's a Tom Savini joint, and he is like a master of effects, especially at this point in his career. Like Dawn of the Dead puts him on the map.
Yeah.
He does Friday the 13th, which is like a next level. It's basically why the Friday the 13th movies became so popular so quick, because their effects were better than everybody else on the market. And 84? 86?
86.
In 1986, height of his powers, and like the Grandpa mask, I can see what he's going for, because it's kind of like the old man makeup in Amadeus, but it's like, it's too rubbery?
Yeah, it looked like an actual Halloween mask, which it might have been a thing with, hey, we had this problem in the first film, you know, the actor didn't want to apply it, so maybe if we create a mask that we could pull over the actor's head.
And then we come in and touch it up and tighten it in. Yeah,
it might be a little bit easier than having to sit there, you know, for 5-6 hours with the actor and applying it, and another 5-6 hours taking all the makeup off.
That makes sense. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility, because the first film, the actor who played Grandpa just refused to put the makeup on again because it was so uncomfortable and so difficult to actually utilize. So that would make sense if Tobe Hooper made a point like, whatever you do with the Grandpa makeup, make it piss easy for the actor to be in and out of. Yeah,
because we don't see Grandpa till the climax of the movie.
When they captured Stretch, because she like tries to escape, but they catch her, and then
they recreate the dinner from the first movie.
Oh my god, this is bad.
Yeah.
The dinner sequence in the first movie is, you would argue, one of the best horror sequences in cinema.
Oh yeah, it's horrifying.
And in this one, it is the most, like...
cheese.
Yeah, it's bad, because they're trying to do the same thing, but, like, Chop Top has, like, the hitchhiker puppet, and he's acting kind of like a jackass.
Yeah.
Like, Cook Sawyer, or the cook, is kind of ranting and raving, like he just got finished doing a line of coke and watching some YouTube. And
then Leatherface is, you know, pining, but also worried that they're going to kill my girl.
Well, I need my girl. And then the cook is like, Leatherface wants that XEX girl, but he knows that the Saw is family. And it is so fucking weird. And then obviously they're like, well, Granddad, he gonna kill you because he's the best killer in the world. And his 137-year-old ass, which would make him the oldest human being to have ever lived, is like gonna, kill her. But it's the same thing as the first one.
He keeps dropping the hammer.
And then he finally whacks her like one good time, and then that's when Dennis Hopper comes back in.
And then doesn't Cook hit her another time, or is it Chop Chop?
I don't know. One of them does. It might be Cook.
Yeah, because I think he really gets her in the back of the head.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be like, oh, she's gone. Like, it's finally gonna happen. Mm-hmm. And then Lefty comes in, it's a chainsaw battle.
And he's like, run, sister, run! And,
And she's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And then Chop Top chases after Stretch. Mm. Leatherface is engaged with a death-defying Errol Flynn-esque chainsaw fight.
Believe me, that didn't go past me. I'm like, Wow, we have jumped back to the Errol Flynn days. Like, this movie is going everywhere.
They're on the table, they're jumping around, there's flips going on here, and like the cook, he got in the ass by the chainsaw, so he's underneath the table, like soliloquying. He's like, yes. What's come of this country where a man can't open up his own human meat farm and live inside of an amusement park like some evil carny?
They really carved my turkey. I think his soliloquy was my favorite of that scene.
Oh,
even though you got the two guys chainsaw fighting, but him, they really burnt my biscuits. And
they buttered my beans.
So I was just sitting there laughing at the ridiculousness, and he's like, oh, I'm really gonna have to go to a hospital for this.
I love this sequence so much because you can tell they put so much work into this movie. This is where all the money went.
Yeah.
But you can also tell how, like, still cheap it is, because you can tell where Dennis Hopper is and then his stunt double.
Yeah.
Because they don't even try. His stunt double has jet black hair and is a foot taller than Dennis Hopper.
Well, I mean, let alone, spoiler, Leatherface gets impaled with Dennis Hopper's chainsaw multiple times, and I'm thinking, like, well, we've got multiple movies after this. How is Leatherface gonna survive that?
From the grenade. Because also, the cook is like, well, this is my exit strategy. Come here, Nubbins, which is the name of the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Pulls down the hitchhiker, Nubbins, which you can tell is obviously like a crash test dummy with a rubber mask on.
Yeah. He
pulls the grenade out and he pulls the pin, and the grenade goes off, and it's like implied, oh, it's killed all three of them, but you don't see it because
and Grandpa too, because Grandpa's down there.
And Grandpa too, and then it's just a battle between Stretch and Chop Top
as they go up the Matterhorn.
As they go up to the tippity top of the Matterhorn, and who is at the tippity top of the Matterhorn?
The final boss.
Grandma. Who has a chainsaw on her lap and is in like this grand display, who also is a ginormous person.
Yeah, because Grandma in the first movie looked a lot like Norma Bates in the first Psycho. Where
it's a skeleton.
Skeleton. That's why I'm like, okay, so was she a skeleton and dead in the first movie? Or is she like Grandpa, where you just give her some blood and,
She'll come back around.
She'll come back around. Because she was looking really thin in the first movie. And in this movie, chainsaw in the lap. She's, pretty heavy.
She's Jabba the Hutt fat.
I wouldn't say that fat, but she's pretty heavy. And I'm just like, you can chop up, don't be taking that from my grandma. You killed Grandma. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, we've gotten to this point, but what the actual fuck?
Yes, and also, like, Stretch gets Grandma's chainsaw, she's trying to start it, and Chop Top is like, you bitch, and he's just slashing her on the back.
With a barber's...
his straight razor.
Yeah.
And he's just going for it. And I'm like, Chop Top, bro, you know how you cut your own neck 3 times before this fight started?
Mm-hmm.
You know how you can do that to her once and it's over? This movie could be over right now?
Yep.
And it's not over because of you? And then she turns on the chainsaw. And she gets Chop Top. Sends Chop Top down straight the Matterhorn, straight to hell.
Straight into the tunnel, like, good aim.
Great aim, solid. She'd be a skee-ball champion.
Yeah.
And then she does... what does she do?
She picks up the chainsaw, and on top of the Matterhorn, she's just doing basically the Leatherface,
like he's a fucking... What are they, the fucking...
the Tusken Raiders from Star Wars.
She's doing the Tusken Raider dance. And she starts spinning around. She's doing the Leatherface dance at the top of the fucking Matterhorn. And at that moment...
the credits hit, and I was just like, what was that?
Right? Oh my god. Okay. Like, this movie... What the actual fuck, right?
That should be on the box.
Okay. Is this even close to the first one?
No.
Like, not even a little bit. Like, this feels like a different movie.
Yeah, this isn't the same as the first one.
Different franchise, but,
it doesn't even feel like the same universe apart from, the things of the past and blah, 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 and they never caught these people, but it's just like, I can't see how they would evolve from being a cannibalistic family into the Three Stooges turned cannibal. It's like, doesn't make sense how that would happen.
They go from being this, like, really weird Hills Have Eyes-esque cannibal family to, like just deranged carnies.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard, like, Rob Zombie says he gets a lot of inspiration from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He's a huge fan of that film.
The original or this
one?
Of
the original.
Okay.
But I have assumptions that I think he really, really likes this one. He likes Texas Chainsaw Massacre too. Because this is, like... I can see a lot of this movie's influence in, like, Rob Zombie's work. The really garish, crazy people who have a lot of, like, weird rantings and, like, not to be rude, but the white trash aesthetic of these crazy carnies or hillbillies. But, like, even, like, Rob Zombie's movies are, like, at least watchable. This is weird. I don't know. This feels, again, like
weird.
A weird, yeah. Because, okay, I think we talked about this beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Is this movie good? No, right?
No.
We can agree it's not good.
No.
But did you hate it?
I didn't hate it.
You didn't hate it?
I didn't hate it.
Okay.
I mean, I'd be very, blunt and be like, no, this was a fucking waste of time. I hated it. Like, no, I didn't hate it. I don't love it. I'm, like, kind of liking it because I could see how this would be a cult movie.
Yeah.
But this just doesn't feel like Texas Chainsaw. This feels like a random 80s horror movie that's
but like got the rights to the name, right?
Yeah, where it's like it's more funny than scary, and it's like, okay, I could get behind a movie like that, but this is just like, this doesn't feel authentic like the first movie.
Yeah, because I think I'm in the same boat as you. It might sound like I really don't like the movie. That's not true. I actually kind of like it, but I like it on its own terms.
Yeah.
But even on its own terms, it's not a good movie.
No.
It's one of those things where the characters don't make a lot of sense. The plot is playing real fast and loose. Things are happening, but they don't correlate 100% with what has come before it.
Yeah.
The set design and the effects are really good.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, all the gore effects are great in this. Compared to the first one, which had almost no gore effects, almost no blood, this one goes in the opposite direction. This is all gore. This is all blood. But
it's also a different decade.
And it's a whole different decade. And it's like this movie is so interesting as a subject of film history.
Yeah. But
it's a bad movie, but I don't hate it. Like, this is a fun movie.
Yeah.
I can turn my brain off and enjoy it, but if my brain chimes in even a little bit, I am so out of it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. I mean, I had to put the phone down and just like, what is actually happening? Because this is just so all over the place. Looney Tunes on acid.
That's a good way to describe it. Looney Tunes on acid.
That's how it felt. But yeah, I'm sticking with the original film.
So we haven't shaken you from that.
No, we have not shaken me from that. Not what I was expecting. I did read that I think an early concept for the second film was going to be that the family, Leatherface's family, moved into like a cannibalistic town.
Yeah,
and
I heard that too.
Be kind of like drawing people in and then, basically fresh meat. And I'm like, okay, that kind of sounds like the, what is it, like the early 2000s House of Wax, where they come into the town and everything's, wax figures, and then, the people that make them, they finally appear and they attack them. So I'm like, okay, that kind of sounds like the same concept, kind of cool.
Yeah.
And this is just like straight out of left field. What's going on? I'm like, what?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't want to disparage anybody who, like, put a lot of effort and time and work into this. Yeah. But the screenwriter for this, again, his L.M. Kit Carson, you can look at his, like, filmography. He does not really have a lot of credits, to be honest. Like, he stopped working in about 2001. I really think that this is his
magnum opus.
Maybe. Well, I don't think it's his magnum opus. I think this is probably like, I wanted to be attached to a franchise kind of script, and he just turned in something. This feels like a concept first draft. It's a first draft with just a couple of scenes that he thinks is going to be cool, and he has not smoothed them over into a cohesive film yet.
Yeah.
But that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
That was. So that means that next week we're watching
Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Which is going to be interesting, because would you like to know who is one of the stars in this film?
Yeah, tell me.
Viggo Mortensen.
Really?
Aragorn.
Wow.
Son of Arathorn.
Okay,
Defender
Viggo.
of Rohan. King of Gondor. Yes. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure Viggo Mortensen's in this one. He's either in this one or he's in the fourth one. Yeah, that's Viggo Mortensen right on the back of the box. I can see him. Also, Ken Foray's in this.
Okay.
You know, Dawn of the Dead fame. Great actor. Yeah. I'm gonna be excited to show you this one, because this is when they were like, so, 2, wrong direction. Let's try a more back to basics approach. But then they neglected to watch the first movie when they decided to get a back to basics approach.
One of those, okay.
It's gonna be great. I love showing you these movies, by the way.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I was gonna say I can't wait to watch, but I can wait to watch it.
You can wait.
I'll wait until next week to watch it.
All right, but if anybody else wanted to show up and listen to us as we wax philosophical about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface, where can they go?
Well, if you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can find us on Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.
Yes, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Film Vault. That's The Film Vault on YouTube. We are uploading videos right now, and we're trying to keep that as consistent as possible. Come and support us, subscribe, comment, like. Do what you do.
And if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram at The Film Club Podcast, where we post upcoming movies that we're going to review, events that we go to, trivia, and other fun things.
And with that, Miss Boo,
we'll see you next week at The Film Club.
Have a good week, everybody.